Welcome to the Growth Shift. I'm David Zilstra. Here's what I've learned after years in business. Every leader who's built something meaningful has a story, but the moment they had to shift, when failure forced innovation, when change became opportunity, when they chose growth over comfort. On this show, we dive into those pivotal moments, the setbacks that became breakthroughs, the strategic shifts that accelerated growth, and the frameworks that turned obstacles into opportunities. Because here's the truth. In a world where change is the only constant, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who've learned to shift strategically through it. So whether you're facing your own pivot point or just want to learn from someone who's been there, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Valentix. At Valentix, we work with B2B coaches and consultants who are struggling with generating consistent, high-quality leads, automating their client onboarding processes, and scaling their operations without simply adding more hours or headcount. Most of the time, our clients come to us frustrated because they're bogged down in manual tasks and feel like they're missing out on the power of modern technology. But with the right strategy and AI-powered solutions, they're able to streamline their workflows, attract better opportunities, and achieve sustainable growth. If that sounds like you or someone you know, learn more at valentix.io. Now let's dive into today's episode. Today on The Growth Shift, we're incredibly excited to welcome Kim Kasparian, powerhouse in business development and a true advocate for the power of relationships. With a career spanning decades, Kim has built million-dollar territories, helped businesses scale to 8 figures and beyond, and is known as a change agent who thrives in moments of transformation. She's the brilliant mind behind the have fun and get it done system, teaching CEOs how to think and lead effectively. Kim's unique journey, including leveraging technology to overcome significant personal challenges, offers invaluable insights into communication, connection, and resilient growth. Kim, welcome to the Growth Shift.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Now, we chatted the other day and you shared that you've been in sales and managing businesses since you were a teenager, always
Yes.
building through relationships. Could you walk us through how these early experiences from a boutique fashion store to building million-dollar territories in tech sales shaped your core philosophy on business relationships?
Sure. Let's see if I can digest. I was lucky enough and privileged enough to grow up with entrepreneurs, people who started their business from nothing. So I've been blessed on both sides. Half my family, had corporate jobs and did really well that way. The other half were entrepreneurs. So I was mature enough, lucky enough to be mentored, right? And as any teenager, you get to the point where you need to start making your own money. And like, where do you go? You go to auntie this, uncle that, or like, oh, wait, I have a friend, get dressed. I'm going to introduce you. And I just always, the ironic thing is I was so shy back then and so afraid to be a bother to anybody that I ended up in sales, and I ended up in sales by accident. I feel like I'm like Michael in The Godfather. Every time I try to leave, somebody got me back in. So all of the sales opportunities I got were about building relationships to get people into the business or market share. Like I ended up from the boutique, ended up in sales jobs that really required an outside person, meaning I was responsible for creating the leads, making the first impressions, helping people make the initial buying decisions, and making them a repeat customer for whatever company I was working with. So that was my job. Go out and get them, Kasparian. And back then we didn't have social media. I didn't have my first cell phone until I was almost 30 years old, working in a technology company where I was selling them, so I needed to have one. And so we never had I was never given a budget, like a corporate, like, here you go, here's your marketing budget. It was like me, my mouth, make it happen, kid. So I did. I did.
You sure did. So from those early years of, getting into sales at a young age to, moving into tech as a career, what do you think are some of the most, valuable lessons that you learned that allowed you to become such a powerhouse in tech?
Relationships. I've taken a personal journey, and we'll get into that later, like what my life is now. I live online now. But back then, it always felt foreign to me. Technology was foreign. And the only thing that made it work for me, and when I real how I could fit in, like I could still not tell you how a phone actually works and the cell towers and all that and the technology. I never geeked out on that stuff ever. I had really great counterparts that knew everything and anything anybody ever wanted to know. My job in sales and in relationships, I look for the spaces in between. I don't see anyone as a competitor. I kind of see what everyone's doing and where I could support what everyone's doing. So in technology, since I was not feeling like I needed to go back to school or could go back to school to learn all that there is about the technology and keep up with how quickly technology was duplicating, was like, well, what's my strength? Relationships. So I became the person who can make sure you were saving money on your phone bill because who wants to spend more for what, when you can pay less. And I became like the Vanna White of phones. Like everyone wanted the latest and greatest, but I was like, here, put one in your hand. Show me how you're going to make a call. Whether it was my professional woman with the gorgeous nails, right, or my construction guys who wanted that little fancy flip phone. I'm like, put it in your hand, and they're like, I can't even. I go, yeah, you need a manly phone. You need a phone that, and like, so I would have all these discussions, like telling the construction guys, listen, you want that fancy phone, but like it hits the floor one time, it falls from the top of the scaffolding. What are you gonna do? You can pay thousands of dollars for a replacement?
Bring back the Nokias, indestructible.
Right. And or like the women, like you can't put the brick phone in your pocketbook, and if you want to be all demure, right? Like we need to figure something else out. And it was a funny story with the CEO of a major company. I would just help people solve problems. So I knew enough that if I could solve your problem, we'd all be good. And if it was a question I couldn't answer, and this is all my careers, I'd be like, I'll find that answer for you. And I made sure not only did I have relationships for sales, I surrounded myself. My dad was a big history buff, and he always taught us about through life. He always told me the story about Thomas Ford, right? Fifth grade education, was sued because no one could believe he could make the engine that he did. Because he's like, you're fifth grade, and he's like here he brought a little model of his 5 buttons, and he's like, yeah, I have fifth grade education. It's true, but I have these 5 buttons. And the story goes, the lawyer said, well, what does that have to do with anything? If I want to find out something, I call the engineer. I want to know how my money's doing, I call the accountant. I tell him what I want, and I say, go figure it out. So I kind of took all these rich stories, and I would always make sure I'd have my tech people and my other people to serve problems that I couldn't solve. And I studied communication and tools, so I could always change my communication style to match who I was working with. That became really helpful in technology because the people who are brilliant in technology have a completely different behavioral style than me. If I talk in my language, they're like that. They'd like, because I talk loud and they talk very deliberate, and they're always prepared, and they like plenty of notice. So, and I'm not like that. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So
So
it
when I
sounds
used
like
to build
really.
rapport, my counterparts would be like, how did you get so and so to help you? They won't even take my call. I'm like, I don't know. They just want to help me.
It sounds like one of
And
those
it was
main
because I would
differentiators.
actually take the time to like do things their way.
Yes, yeah. So it sounds like one of those main differentiators was, a lot of your mindset and your approach to relationships, not just looking at the problem people had, but maybe reading between the lines about, what's behind these problems? Who is this person that I'm speaking with? Where can I fill those gaps that other people aren't filling? And looking at maybe colleagues or other competitors, looking at what are they doing? What's missing, right? So this took you pretty far in the corporate world. Tell us. I mean, I shared that $1 million territory and all of this, but what did corporate life evolve into for you with this different approach to focusing on relationships before anything else?
Corporate's interesting. I love corporate. I've always worked alongside of it. I had a short stint inside, and then I realized why I never wanted to be inside. However, in fairness, the company that I said yes to was an entrepreneurial company with an entrepreneurial culture created by one woman. And when she made the shift, and she kind of cemented what I do now, when she made the decision to scale her like $10,000 million company to bigger, she hired the wrong consultants, and they made it very corporate. Like people, it's all about the numbers, my way or the highway. She lost 100 after we all got laid off. She lost $100 million. So I was like, okay, I'm okay. But in corporate, the corporations that hire me, where we meet is they understand people are their profits. And if people aren't happy, they're not going to be productive. And if they're not productive, profit suffers. And let me just digest this for you so I can say, I always took my sales role, even being the stock girl who accidentally became the sales girl, who got to become the VP of sale, manage the whole store and learn how to buy like at 20 some years old. It was because I always saw the person first. And whether I could solve the problem or not, we were going to solve the problem. From the fashion days, if anybody's old enough to remember Gimbels and Bloomingdale's and in New York City. And, I learned if you went to Gimbels or Macy's back in the day, or Nord's, if they didn't have it, if they didn't have what you wanted, they would call Gimbels and vice versa, or they call Nordstrom's and say, listen, I have a client here. They're looking for XYZ. We don't have it. Might you have it? Yes, we do. Okay. Can you please either, I'll bring somebody over to get it, or can I send my client over to you? Those are one of the stories that got imparted to me, and that's the way we in our little boutique dealt with things. If I couldn't have it, I would talk to Harry, the owner, and say, Harry, she really wants this. When are you going into New York? And maybe can we keep something in mind for her? Or he would call a competitor or somebody and say, listen, what do you got? What can we do? So when I went into corporate sales or working along corporate, I just showed up as a problem solver. I'm like, listen, I don't know if I can do it, but if I can do it, I will. And by the way, I'm going to be out and about. If I find the solution, can I bring it back to you? They'd be like, sure. I'm thinking, but I would come back, kind of like Groot in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Is this what you want? Yeah. Okay. Kind of like my father used to tell me life stories, and I use it now, mafia management, watching The Godfather. I have a question about life and relationships. It's like, watch The Godfather. We'll talk. So one of the things I learned is I can be both Michael and Marlon Brando. I can be both of them, Don Corleone and Michael. But I just built relationships. And people will say, what can I do for you? Nothing right now, but if I ever need you, just remember, I helped you. So like, I might never need you, but if I need you, remember. And they're like, Kim, you help me so much, whatever you need. Like, just let me know what we can do for you. So I would just collect relationships. And it's as simple as that. And when I used to teach sales, and even I sometimes have to remind my established business owners, we can never come across as an order taker, someone who's just looking for the sale. My way of saying it is you cannot, Mary Kay Ash, creator of Mary Kay, taught me this. You cannot go into an appointment with dollar signs in your eyes. People that's a no-no. So I was like, okay, doesn't matter how much you need that money, which anybody who started sales would be like, oh, yeah, like the beginning's kind of rough. So my way of saying it is you can't show up and look at somebody like they're a lamb chop and expect them to jump on your plate. You just can't do that. I call that a starving Marvin. Okay. So I invite people to be a solution provider and to build relationships with their competitors that they respect, and who can do the things that you can't. Because those people are just as valuable as a sea of sales. And they used to be my best referral sources because they would know why I'm different. They would know they could never do what I do, vice versa. So if we couldn't help, we used to do it all the time. Like, you know what? I really want to sell you this phone, but you only use it minimally and you have a corporate rate with the other company. I don't have it to give you. And as much as I want to sell a phone today, I'm good. And you don't really need service because I offered a lot of service and a lot of extra things. I'm going to send you to Gil. But when you get there, if you walk in, you only talk to Gil. I'll call him and say that to expect you, but just stick with him. It's going to be no frills, but he will make sure you get the rate and the phone that you want. People are like, you'll do that? I'm like, yeah. So Gil would be like, great. And he would take all the high maintenance ones who needed a lot of attention or needed a service. He's like, listen, I don't do that. You're going to pay more with Kim, but it's totally worth it. He used to send people in and they'd say, Gil sent me. I said, okay, come on.
Sounds like you've taken a really, not just relationship first approach, but authenticity behind the relationships as well. And actually keeping your customer or potential customer in mind, right? Really what's going to help them, because if you can't help them and maybe you can send them somewhere else, which is actually helping them at the end of the day, it sounds like it all eventually came back around to you. So you developed this I suppose this approach or this ethos to sales and to helping people, building relationships and building connections. But where did that lead next? I mean, after corporate, after selling phones, I mean, tell us a little bit more about where you landed and how it really evolved into a business for you today.
Okay, so the last corporate job I had, the only in corporate, I always served corporate, but I had a lot of wiggle room because I worked for entrepreneurial companies that served corporate. So I was always in corporate all day long, but I got to do whatever I wanted. And they all let me. They like, we love Kim. You make things happen. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not shackled. So 7 months after I took I was recruited out of technology to work in staffing, corporate staffing, which again was an entrepreneurial company that had grown and had teams all the way to the Eastern Seaboard. Long story short, management changed. A whole bunch of us that wouldn't sacrifice our integrity or our relationships got severed, told we were no longer needed. This was right after me buying my first home, putting all my life savings into it, and taking a very safe. I went from a straight commission job to a base salary plus commission job because I thought I was an adult now with a mortgage. 2 weeks severance pay, and not really enough to make the ends meet for that month. So I did what any sane individual would do. I decided I was never going to work for somebody else again, and I was going to start my own business with zero money.
Complete
I didn't
sanity.
even have a credit card at the time. I didn't even have a credit card. I got credit cards. That's how I was living. And I'll never forget because I had to drive an hour and a half to find out I didn't have a job because they, the corporate power play. And I looked at my director was like, you could have called and handled it really well. They were like, I kind of made them think twice, but I separated. And on the way home, I called my three amigos, my three mentors and friends who were older than me, but all built their lives entrepreneurially, raising kids and the whole bit. And I was like, the best thing in my life just happened. And they're like, are you sure it was the best? You don't sound. I'm like, yes, it is. I'm pissed off at the moment. And I'm just letting you know I'm starting my own business after I get back from New York after Lincoln Center. And you're going to help me. Okay, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know yet. We'll talk about it in 2 weeks. See you in the city. I knew I wanted to teach people what I experienced through all the personal challenges and twists and turns. And I knew everyone wanted to hire me. And I really wanted to say, I don't want to work for you because you're just functional boss. And I'm not, I'm done. I'm out. Like I do everything and then you want to mess it up and I'm done. But instead I said, what if you just gave me your people and I made them act like me? And I just got them all looking and acting like me. And wouldn't that be better? Like, you could pay me the same money and I'll just make all everybody act and look like me. And we can triple their revenue in 90 days. You can do that? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So that's what got everyone's attention. And I would share, I did public speaking back then, how I would do it, to have fun, get it done. And people started saying yes. And the results started going. But that would have never happened had I not picked up the phone to my three people. And one in particular was my coach back when he was part of the Anthony Robbins franchise. This was before anybody knew Anthony Robbins. I was so proud. I was the first person to know Anthony Robbins, who he was, and before anybody did in my circles. And they're like, he's in North Haven. And I'm like, he's not in North Haven. I go, his company, I'm like, then I found out we had franchises back then. Anthony had franchises. So we went, had a great, I was so excited because I had the personal power tapes. Went to a day, evening workshop. Then they put you in the room to sell you to the weekend. And God put Charlie in my room versus the other wonderful gentleman because Charlie did what I would do. Saw me, listened to where I was, where I wanted to be, saw there was a gap and created a win-win to fix it. So I had experienced 7 years before him helping me create incredible goals. So when I called him up and I said, listen, I got to buy you breakfast. He's like, okay. So I'd buy you lunch, but I don't have I barely can, I'm going to buy you breakfast. So, and he just said, what do you want to do? And I told him what I just told you. And he's like, how do you want to do it? I'm like, I have no clue. That's where you come in. And we only have 30 days to get it done. Otherwise the deal still stands. I'm taking over your 1-bedroom condo and you're out. And he's like, no problem. But what he did is he focused me on having a message. He knew I could do what I said I could do. The gap was because I was teaching mindset, I was teaching skill set, but from a very different place.
Mm.
He said to me something I never forget, and it is true for the coaching industry and all the AI, everything, right? He goes, you're selling an intangible and you have to make the intangible tangible. It's not a phone. It's not a suit. It's this idea that you can help them triple their sales in 90 days, having fun. Like they got to touch something. And I was like, but I don't, my mind went to, but I don't have a budget for for collateral. It's like, you don't need that. You just need to have an outline. You got to be able to show them the steps. So he really, being a salesperson, I wanted to go sell. And he's like, you don't have anything to sell. Like, yes, I do. He's like, Kim, until you get it written down, you got nothing to sell. There's no inventory. And it took me a while because I'm like, no, I got to go make the mortgage. I know. That's why we have to sit down and create something that they can buy. And that's how I learned the whole difference between a practice versus a product, a business versus a list. Like, I don't, like, what do you have, Kim? It's you, but you need to have a system, or at least tell them they're like, they can't buy you. It's illegal. They can't buy you. We can't buy people. I'm like, well, that's true. That's true.
So you left the corporate world. You decided, hey, I'm never going back to work for anyone again. You took that leap, complete sanity, we'll call it. For any entrepreneur, they know exactly how you felt at that time. You lent on mentorship. You looked into what are people coming to me for? And why can't I just replicate that in their people as well? And as I understand it, Success Genie was born, maybe in the early days, and maybe it wasn't fully formed. But tell us a little bit more then. What actually transpired? What came together? What are you doing now? What did it come to?
As much as things change, nothing really changes. I'm still it's the same message. Success is your birthright. I was given the moniker Success Genie. I was not arrogant or crazy enough to say, hello, I'm the Success Genie. My clients would say to me, Kim, I did what you said and success showed up. Are you a genie or something? It's like, and I told them up front, you do what I say, what you want comes to you. We don't chase, we call in. And then when I was teaching a networking presentation at a leads group, yeah, I did kind of a whole thing, close your eyes, imagine this, that, and the other thing. And then when they open their eyes, I actually transformed into a genie outfit to bring the point home. You got to ask and receive like you're talking to a genie, because that thing happened with a corporate CEO. So how it became part of my ethos, the CEO invited me and he heard about me, had a problem, and very educatedly, very professionally tried to explain the problem in the language of fa fa fa, la la la, blah blah blah. And I'm pretty sharp, and I could not. I'm like, what? So rather than tell him like, that's a word salad, sir, which I probably would tell him these now, but back then I was not going to say it that way. I said, do me a favor. Imagine you're on vacation with your family. You're walking on the beach. You trip on something and you dust it off and it's a bottle. And oh my God, a genie pops out. And you got this problem and you're like, hey, what would you say to the genie? What would be what you ask for? Complete clarity, congruency, clarity. I'm like, yeah, okay, we can do that. Yeah, no problem. We can handle that. So that just stuck because a lot of people try to tell me what they think needs to happen for them to get what they want. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Imagine the genie just came out of the bottle and you don't have to tell them how to do it. You just tell them the what. Everyone's brilliant. Everyone can tell me like they're 5 years old. I want that. Okay, we can do that. That's so it's been an ethos. I've built relationships now, 25 years later, global relationships. We have an international company. I thought I would need a genie jet to be able to do that, right? We're talking from across the pond. And I wanted freedom. I had a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I knew it was going to take a lot of effort and work to get it all like working for me. I had a lot of big dreams, I had a lot of big challenges. So I needed a source of income so I could focus on the personal development and the dreams that I had. That's what brought me into sales. That's what kept me in sales. I was self-made, and just sales, you can make twice as much money, 3 times as much money in less time. As life happened, which it's happened multiple times, having my own business has always allowed me to manage the great and not so great things of life while affording my life. That's what I love. That's what I believe all business owners want. We have a big call. We have a call to serve, or we have a big vision of helping people, and we want to create our own paycheck. And I learned in my Mary Kay days, that's where I really learned how to sell on my own with that we're only one conversation away from whatever we need. And I love the fact that we as business owners can create our own paycheck. I don't get no longer does someone tell me what they're going to pay me. I decide how much I'm making, and I provide the value, and then we come up with a win-win agreement. So what's kept me in the game is the ability to live life on my terms, why I continue to coach business owners, established business owners, and corporate when I'm invited. I don't feel the need to prove myself. They either get it or they don't. That our business, even our careers, like I've coached many career people, and I'm like, listen, your career is supposed to support you, not create claustrophobic. And you can increase, I teach them, I'm like, if you want to be in corporate, I'll teach you how to get paid your value. If you're in business, I'll teach you how to get paid your worth. Either way, the way we do it is relationships. So I've just expanded my relationships. I started tripling people's sales in 90 days. Then the C-suite was like, hey, can you come over here? I'm like, can I? Yeah, you can. Come here. And they would just confide in me. They'd be like, this is what's going on. Could your way help us? Yeah. Tell me, like, and we would just, people just talk. I call myself the Barbara Walters of coaching. Either people reveal more than they ever thought they would, or they just like pull me aside and say, hey, this is what's going on. Could you help me? And my answer is always the same 25 years later. Yes, either I will help you with what I have, or we'll look at my speed dial and I'll figure something out. I'll find somebody who can help you. That's been my ethos for 25 years.
So Kim, you're working with companies now on sales, yes, but on relationships and communication, right? You're coming into organizations, you're giving them yeses. If you don't have it yourself, you're going to your speed dial, you're finding solutions. Can you give us an example of these solutions in play? I mean, do you have any stories that you can share with us of how it is you came into an organization and help them transform their communication and their sales approach?
Sure. I'll do one of each, right? A smaller business, a medium-sized, like business large. So one of my biggest, most proudest moments is when I was invited to the electric company in our state. Now, this is why I say relationships work. It's 25 years. I still only have word collateral. I've never done fancy advertising or anything like that. I met one of the managers, senior management, at a golf course during a golf tournament. There's not enough insurance in the world to allow me to golf, so I volunteered. I drove the golf cart, making sure all the golfers had water, stayed hydrated, candy, whatever they needed. Mulligans. And if you golf, if you don't like your shot, you get to buy a mulligan, raffle tickets. I was like the Vanna White. So go to the networking evening dinner. One of the gentlemen who had seen me every hour coming by, he's like, and what do you do besides, make sure we all stay hydrated and make us, everything you do? And I told him what I did. And he's like, here's my card. Come talk to me. I have a problem I think you can solve. That's been my whole career. Okay. And for him, he was consummate professional, people mastery communicator. He managed one of the sales teams and he was frustrated with them because they weren't performing to the level that he knew he could. And at that time, managers were being called away from their duties to be on task force for other companies. So his time was very stretched. And he said, listen, A, I'm aggravated and I don't think they deserve that. And two, I'm being called. I can't say no. Can you come in and do that thing you do and help them get their sales back up and running? Yeah. I said, yes. So he committed to a 90-day contract with me. Loved it so much. He said, I want you to be their sales manager for the year. I trust you. They're under your tutelage and we're good. And I did that. Got the contract, got a second year approved. The second month I walked into the place, it looked like somebody had come in and shot everybody up. People were like, their hair was on fire. And I'm like, what happened? I thought something like that happened. They're like, we just had 30 people or 100 people taken out with security. And we were told we don't have a job, but don't leave. If we weren't escorted out, we might get a severance if we're not selected, but we have to reapply for all of our jobs. I was like, okay. And they're like, how did you even get in? How did you get in, Kim? I'm like, the front door. And they were worried about me. I'm like, listen, I'm fine. If they take me out, I just go to accounting on my way out and get my money. And I'll meet you at Concilio's, I'm your coach, but my coach. So anyway, I walked them through all that, the emotional thing of that. I said, do you want me to call resume writers? And Alan was like, yes, because they needed, after 30 years, 25 years, they needed resumes. I'm like, I got you. He's like, okay. But long story short, without a job, it was 6 months before they were told they were hired. But I said, you're going to go do your quota from last year plus 10%. How do you know? I said, just we're doing your quota plus 10%. They did. 3 weeks before the end of the year, they get officially told, oh, by the way, your quota is, and they were like, we already did it. And they're like, yeah, they all got hired. Because I said, you got all to be green because they were concerned the wrong color, the wrong gender. They're part of the old regime. They're going to get dismantled. I'm like, we paint in times of crisis, we paint ourselves green. Everyone loves the color green. And then they're like, what? I go, those who make the money don't get touched. I don't care if they don't like you. That's when I introduce mafia management to them. I had them watch The Godfather to illustrate and Bugsy Siegel. So they loved that. That was done. By the time I left, They were all hired for the new organization. During that 1 year alone, about 1.5 million, I helped them during a reorg, which if anybody knows corporate, they know they're going to bleed money during a reorg. This was the only department that made money. I don't take the credit. They did it. I just guided them.
Kim, I'm curious about something here. I mean, you focus on relationships, and there's so much value in it, of course, right? Building the relationships and then also bringing that methodology to the clients that you work with has a profound impact. But it would seem to me that, a lot of coaches and consultants try and take a similar approach, right? Focusing on relationships, building trust, providing value in their own way, perhaps. But it seems like it's almost becomes a bottleneck in itself. How do you scale relationships at the end of the day, whether it's for yourself and your company or the clients that you're helping? How is it that you can leap from speaking with one person to connecting with more to continue working this magic?
Thinking like a CEO instead of a salesperson.
How so?
Think about what a CEO does. CEO solves problems no one else can solve. Why does everyone want to be a CEO, or what does a CEO have that most people don't? Relationships. Think of why people go to Ivy League schools. It's not because the education's any better. It's not. It's the network of relationships. So as a CEO running a big company, you don't have one person to serve. You have many, right? Internally, you have an internal audience of many. So you have to think differently. As versus a manager that maybe has 2 people, they have 100 to 3,000 people. One of my clients, an entrepreneurial company, the CEO would always be involved in the sales conversations, but he wouldn't be part of the onesie twosie conversations. He would be talking with the CEO of another company who maybe had distribution or had connections for him. Like he has the product, they have the people. So it's higher level conversation. So this is the basic way that I teach people how to do it. Keep it really simple. Say that you just want to make an extra $1 million, because what I'm known for is creating $1 million in 12 months, right? If you're at 6 figures or you're 7, let's just just get to $1 million and duplicate. So even as a coach, somebody who's like, Kim, I'm just a self-employed, stay at home, want to live the life service provider, $1 million. If you're going to go after every $1,000 deal, which is fine, okay, but let's just say your ticket is $10,000. Like I could do whatever I do for you, it's $10,000. All you need is 100 of them, 100 people to be served a year. There's your $1 million. If you're like me, that you do things like, and then I do that all the way up to like I have a $100,000 offer, right? Working with me that I can deliver with my way. That's only 10 people. So that's when I get spicy and say, don't talk to me about funnels. Don't talk to me about expensive advertising unless you want to do volume or you want to get a high-end appointment setter or something that can make, because, you got to be able to build the relationships. Where focus goes, energy flows. To me, the fastest way to find that is relationships. Whether I pay somebody to introduce me or I go out and say, hey, I see a possibility here. Let's have a CEO to CEO conversation and see how we can build a bridge to work together.
Relationships can be very challenging, very difficult to start, right? Especially if you don't have an impressive Rolodex. Perhaps some of our listeners here are thinking that, hey, I wish I could build relationships like Kim, but I just don't have the connections to make that happen. Right, you're mentioning here, Kim, like $100,000 offer. A lot of viewers and listeners to this are thinking, man, I wish I could sell an offer for $100,000, but I can't get in the room with people of high enough caliber to actually make that happen, right? If you were to put yourself in their shoes, how would you go about getting a foot in the door or starting a relationship if you didn't have a network to lean on?
All right, so then maybe I haven't done my job. When I started 20 years ago, did I go knock on the door of the UI saying, I want you to hire me? No, I went to a golf tournament and volunteered my time. Why? Because I knew all the big players would be there. Did I go up to them and say, hey, here's my card. You want to hire me? No. I said, hey, you look thirsty. Here's some water. You got to stay hydrated. You got 8 more holes to play. So the idea is know what you want. I knew what I was doing. I was building a 7-figure company. It didn't matter if I hadn't made my first 6 figures yet. That's what I was doing. I had an offer. I knew who I wanted to meet. And then I just worked through the relationships that I had. My way, have fun, get it done, is about getting people to ask me. I could be on my last bottom dollar. I'm not asking. I'm not begging, but I will do whatever. I have a way to make you invite me to help you. And even if you never buy from me, if I help you, you remember me and you'll go out of your way to introduce me to people that I would still be knocking on the doors 30 years later. Believe me, I have like big Ceridian, UI. I can name you names. They all came to me through a relationship or heard about me and had a relationship with someone, said, do you know her? We need her. Get her over here. So think about not how you're going to get there. Decide what you want, whether you want five $20,000 clients, 100, $1,000 clients. I don't care. And then have a message. Like, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Not what do you want me to do for you? What can you do for me? Just have a message. Like, this is what I can do for you. And then helping everyone else, basically, but you helping other people. It's basically Dale Carnegie or Zig Ziglar. I'm dating myself, y'all, but they're the good. If you want to get what you want, help more people get what they want. So basically, all the sales stuff that you all read, all the slogans that everyone's pushing your way, I actually teach you how to live them because those are gems. Those are gems. Think and Grow Rich, gems. It works. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's what I read. That's how Stephen Covey, win-win. I am the queen now of win-win. It makes sales so much easier. Like, if it's not a win-win, we're not going to play. When people hear that, they drop the guard. Okay. And then they tell me what's really going on. I'm like, oh yeah, you don't need me. You need David. You want me to make a call? Yeah, can you? Okay. They introduced me because of that one thing. They introduced me to 5 people, or they introduced me to my dream client that I never thought I could get to see the light of day to make happen.
So we're talking about putting yourself out there, right? Displaying your value, building trust, building relationships, communicating with people so they understand the value that you can offer and perhaps drawing them in with that. Kim, in today's market, as a communication and relationship expert, what are some of the biggest challenges you see businesses facing, especially as they start to scale with these things in mind?
They're getting seduced into what I call the stupid, that marketing is the way you scale your business, that technology, specifically AI, can just do all the heavy lifting for them. They just sit back and collect the cash. And I do have respect for it, and we're going to have a conversation because I think it's an integral part of our ethos, and I think it should be embraced. And they forget why they're doing their business. They're so in the weeds of trying whatever someone's telling them makes the spark. They forget they went into business primarily because they wanted a certain lifestyle and they wanted to serve a certain audience because they felt they have a gift or calling that no one else has and they want to serve. Until those two things are met, marketing cannot save you. I've seen more companies collapse because they took on people too quickly. They invested in everything, but the cash flow wasn't there. So the company collapsed. Case in point, Circuit City, they had their best quarter ever. Then they went bankrupt because their cash flow wasn't there. I've seen people ruin their companies because they brought on people too fast and didn't have the infrastructure to provide the services. That's happening in AI too, to provide it. So, or in the coaching world, everyone has been seduced into thinking they can create content like crack and the orders start pouring in. For some business models, but service business owners, not so much. There's a blend. There's a whole there's gaps in each of those strategies where if you don't, relationships create the bridge, the connecting pieces to make it all work. Try to build a business without trust, without relationships, even in AI in the current form. I double dare anybody. Take relationships out, see how far you're going to go. Not very far.
I couldn't agree more. So then, Kim, when we look at this intersection of, the relationships that are necessary to build dependable businesses and, new technology like AI and people wanting to use it to strengthen their businesses, what are some of the risks or dangers that you see where people might move further away from relationships and more towards the tech? I mean, what are the concerns around that?
Well, we're already seeing it. We're already seeing it. The coaching industry went from transformation to information. You cannot do what I did and what I do from modules and recordings. You can learn Spanish. You can probably get tutored on how to create an AI avatar. You can do skill set. But if you are trying to create something new in you and expand it into infrastructure in your business, good luck with that. Good luck with that. AI is not, and maybe it'll never, It doesn't have the critical thinking that we have, nor does it have that spark of creativity, that thing that only you have, that incredible connection, with the universe to dream up things that haven't been done. We're not there yet with AI. I'm not, it's above my pay grade to theoretically know we can ever be there, but nothing will ever replace you. It may replace the role you play in a organization. It might replace a job function that once upon a time was done by a human being. But connection with people, that making people feel served and seen and heard, I don't see it.
So where do you see the advantage with AI, right? I mean, if those are the concerns, where do you see entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople being able to leverage it to build better quality relationships?
I see AI as a great amplifier of those relationships. Like I said, certain tasks that maybe would have cost you an arm and a leg as a small business owner to have somebody do it. And then you got to worry about if they did it right, or they can't work until 12 midnight, right? And you nearly need someone there at midnight because you're trying to get something done. I think AI is fabulous, creative tasks, some strategy. And again, so much more than this. My husband loves AI. He's been like, I'm like, dude, it's above my pay grade. I'm getting like headaches looking at it, but he loves AI. My husband sees the vision of what AI is going to become, and everyone's amazed at what he can do with it. So I think as long as we don't make it a false idol, I think all technology is wonderful. I think AI is allowing the smaller business owners to enter markets where they couldn't before. I think AI is doing an incredible job with videos and marketing and things that you would normally have to spend 10, 20, $30,000 to have a studio do for you. You can do it right at your computer, right? Even like somebody like me was like, what? Press a button? Okay. That I think is incredible. I think it's going to do an incredible job of lowering our costs, freeing up our time, allowing for us to be able to invest in higher level opportunities and to be able to save money to reinvest in higher level people capital than we could have before if we had to pay for them and all of this stuff that AI is doing for us. But do I think we're ready to sit in the back seat and drive and be driven like Miss Daisy, letting AI do the heavy lifting? I don't think so.
No, that's exactly it. AI, it's a technology, it's a tool at the end of the day,
It's a
right?
great tool.
Yeah, you've got
And
to
I
be
think
able
it's
to build
underutilized.
relationships. Yeah, I mean, like you
Yeah.
can trust computers so far as, yeah, sure, maybe if you put a formula through, you'll get the right output from it, but there's no connection there, right? At the end of the day, there's no real synergy as well with humans. I mean, how can you
Well,
really build a relationship and trust with a computer if I just don't see it?
Well, let's just put it in the context, right? I've asked AI to do things, and it says it's all done. It's great because I have critical thinking and I have lived experience. I'm like, that's not true. Oh, it's not true. Well, yeah, it's not true. I made that up. Now, if I just put that out there and did something right, I'd be like, I'd be in trouble. So you can't trust it to know more than you, but it can. How can it assist you? How can it assist you? And like in our world, like in coaching and transformation, yeah, AI can spit out a whole plan. You don't need me to. You want a plan? Go to Chat GPT. They can give you a good plan. But who's going to help you show up to it? Who's going to like if you're having a problem with it? Who can ask you questions? Look at your face and be like, okay, this is where your problem is. Go like move yourself a little bit to this way, or look at it that way, or this has nothing to do with business. This is coming up from over here. Let's look at that. Right? Chat can't, or AI cannot do that. Can't get into your head and look at your body language and so we have to use our critical thinking. Where can chat? This is how I tell everyone to grow a business. If it doesn't make your life easier or make you money, you don't need it. Where can AI make your life easier? Because the easier your life is, the more time it frees up for you, the more you can do, the more you can give, the more you can create. How can chat make you money? Or AI, how can AI make you money while improving your relationships or continuing your relationships or strengthening your relationships? And or I know AI is really good about lead generation. Okay, it's fine. At some point, they're going to want to have a conversation before they fork over $50,000, $10,000. But okay, if that helps you get in front of more people or allows you to put everyone in a room at one time in a way that they feel super served and saved you like 10 hours of talking one on one, I'm all for it. I just ask that everyone stop and think, is this going to make my life easier? Is this going to make me money?
Kim, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us as well. To wrap things up, what would you say is the single most important piece of advice that you might offer to our audience of entrepreneurs and leaders about enduring the power of relationships and effective communication in driving business growth?
Be like the Spice Girls and tell us what you want, what you really, really want. Be radically honest about what you want and don't limit yourself because it's available.
Fantastic. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today on The Growth Shift. For any of our audience who might like to connect with you, to learn more about what you're doing, or maybe to come work with you, what would be the best way to find you online?
The best way to find me online is either LinkedIn. I'm there. I'm as Kim Kasparian. And or on Facebook, I have a whole community. You can reach out to my Facebook group, Business Owners Who Want to Scale. We have a whole community inside there. And those would be the two places. And then my email is kim@successgenie.com.
Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on another episode of The Growth Shift. If this conversation sparked something for you, whether it's a new perspective on failure, a strategy you want to try, or just the reminder that every setback can become a setup for something bigger, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, the leaders who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who shift strategically through it. If you're ready to build the systems that help you grow without the chaos, head over to valentix.io. We help businesses like yours scale smarter, not harder. I'm David Zylstra, and I'll see you in the next shift.